Welcome to another episode of OG55. Today we got Bob from Berry Place 28 in the house joining me today. We're talking the elimination of the Magic Morning. We're talking Not Scary Farm, Phantasmic. We're talking a new phone policy for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. We have a lot of topics. It is a stacked show today on OG55. Let's go. Berry Place in the house. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. Bob, it is great having you back on the show, man. It's been way too long. How you doing?
It's been way too long, but I'm so excited to be here. I've been a OG55 follower for many, many years before I even became a YouTuber myself. And so when I first got to be on the show, it was exciting, and I'm so grateful that we've been good friends and we've been able to do this again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you can remind everybody where they can find you on social media so they can go ahead and follow you and show some love.
Sure. So you can follow me at BerryPlace28 on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. And also I have another channel with my good friends, Theme Park Casual in Cordy, California, at the Park Streamers Hangout. And you can find us at www.parkstreamers.com, as well as our YouTube channel.
There he is. There they are. So I'm going to actually link Berry Place down below in the description with the park streamers information, all that down in the description. So make sure if you're not subscribed, you go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so Bob, let's talk about it. There's a lot going on, actually. No more Magic Morning, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, you used to get a full hour, and then Disney's like, nah, half hour, right? They whittled it down to half hour. Now, nothing. You get nothing. Now you get what, a lightning lane or something? So what are your thoughts on this? I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on this. It's kind of crazy.
Well, to me, it's like, what's the purpose of staying at the Disneyland Resort? If they want you to stay in the hotel, the draw was, hey, Magic Morning, come for an hour, and it was great. And even when they reduced to a half hour, it's like, okay, not great, but at least you got some sort of perk. There's not any perk anymore to draw you into staying at the Disneyland Resort. True. So for me, it's like, I can't see spending all this extra money. Now, granted, I only live like 6 miles away from the park, but the people who are coming in from out of town, they're more apt to say, well, you know what, maybe I don't want to stay at the Disneyland Hotel. It costs a lot more. I'm not getting any extra perks. So maybe I'll just stay at, the Hojo across the way, or Holiday Inn, or Best Western, or Candy Cane Inn, Candy Cane Lane. I mean, they can go anywhere they want to. It's just unfortunate because it seems like they keep limiting things. And I know we're going to be talking about money when it comes to Disney here in a moment, because I think that's the biggest issue. Yeah,
because it's interesting because I've stayed at the Grand Cal and I've stayed at Disneyland Hotel. I haven't stayed at Pixar yet, but they're nice hotels. But lately, when I go with George, like the OG crew, we've been staying actually at the Anaheim Main Gate on Disney Way. Now, I mean, it's Motel 6. And I know Motel 6 kind of gets a bad rap, but it's actually very nice, very clean. And it's like maybe a 10-minute walk to the parks. And you're paying $90 a night. I mean, it's crazy, And so like you were saying about what's the incentive for me to drop $800 a night at the Grand Cal, or even what was it, $300 or $400 a night for the Disneyland Hotel? I mean, it's crazy. And it's also, look, I hear all this talk from Disney about like, oh, we want to turn Disneyland into a resort. They've been wanting to do this for 25 years, Bob. Well, you don't really act like a resort, though. You're not incentivizing people to stay on property. What are you doing,
Right. It's kind of like the Vegas thing. Every hotel became a resort in Vegas, even though technically they weren't a resort. And Like you said, Disneyland's wanted to do that for a long time. At least there were some perks that come along with it. Really, it's not a whole lot of perks anymore. So it is really, really disappointing. And I admit, it's last time I stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, the actual Disneyland Hotel, was like 1993. Last time I stayed at Grand California was just a few weeks ago. Thankfully, I was able to do that. But while the hotels were nice and they had some nice amenities, I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that Disney keeps cutting back more and more and more. They, it's the whole shrinkflation thing, right? They give you less but charge you more. Or charge you about the same or more. It's ridiculous. They need to it's coming to a head because we're going to talk about a few other things here, but I think it's getting to the point where they're hurting as a business so much that they're trying to cut things back.
100%. And here's the thing, right? Disney, when they said Disney made, I think they made a comment saying basically we got rid of this because demand wasn't there. Here's where I stand on this. They're telling the truth, but they're also, I think, lying or kind of stretching things a little bit. And what I mean by that is like, you know, when like networks, they put a show at a new time slot that's like a terrible time slot, like Saturday night. It sets that show up for failure, and then it's like, well, there's no viewership, so we're going to go ahead and cancel the show. Well, that's basically what Disney did when they took it down from an hour to a half hour. Why am I waking up early for magic half hour? You can't really get much done in a half an hour. So then you wonder why there's no demand. Well, because it's only half an hour now. If it was an hour still, maybe it would have, you know, still been popular. You know,
exactly.
So,
and if you think about it, even though they were open for that extra hour or half hour, not all the rides and attractions were open. It was only a select few rides and attractions or lands that they could actually go to experience that time. And how many rides are you going to get done? You know, in a half hour, maybe 2, 3 if you're lucky, depending on where they're at. Right. So yeah, you're right. They definitely sabotaged it so that it was not a successful thing, which is a real big bummer.
Now, you mentioned you think it's a money. This particular decision is a money decision. In what way? If you want to elaborate on that, like, how do you feel they're making or saving money in this new dynamic?
Well, I think what it is that when businesses usually cut back when they're having problems, you know, with money, and in this situation, it's not just a magic hour, because we're going to talk about some other things they're doing as well. Right. But, you know, I understand that, you know, you have to have the cast members there to, you know, run the park and to operate those rides. Well, you take that away, that's a half hour less that you actually have to pay those employees to be there, and that's money saving for you and your company, right? Sure. But they have been slowly and systematically doing things like this for a while. It used to be that all the stores would stay open until closing or an hour past closing, right? And now when you go to the stores, I mean, typically, even on Main Street, they are closing, like sometimes Disneyland is closing their doors 15 minutes after the park closes. And you're like, whoa, wait, I thought the store was open for an hour afterwards, you know? Right. Obviously, the Emporium will stay open, but now they don't let people go in after 12:45 a.m. You can't get into the shop. So they're only letting people out of the stores. They close all the doors except for the door that they're letting everyone out of. So they're kind of doing this thing where they're slowly starting to say, well, we're not going to allow people to shop these hours. We're not going to let people come in early anymore. We're not going to let people stay as late at the park, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And that's what really, you know, kills me. But again, when I was talking to, you know, Theme Park Casual and Cordy in California about this last night, while we were doing our streaming and afterwards as well, and the company only does things like this when they're actually hurting and if they're not doing well and not making enough money. However, the funny thing is that, you know, you were mentioning, well, people just aren't taking advantage of it. People are at the park all the time for Disneyland. They say, oh, this is a really slow season, yet the park is packed. Unlike Walt Disney World, I know that's a little bit slower, but it doesn't make any sense to me that they're, you know, it's like, oh, the park's slow, so we're going to start doing winter hours. Really? Because you guys are packed and the lines are packed and you have tons of people here. Yes, it does fluctuate. I will tell you, I was there on Monday and I was there yesterday. When I was there Monday, I couldn't believe how many people were there, and yet everything seemed to be closing up early or, you know, right when the park was closing, like shops and things like that, and food vendor, you know, areas. And then last night, it seemed like there wasn't as many people in the park, yet everything was staying open. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why is the Pioneer Mercantile staying open when just 2 nights ago, you know, they didn't? And then also 2 nights ago well, I guess it was Monday, actually, they actually shut down the Halloween tree right after midnight, and they turned the lights off. I was like, wait, you turned the lights off? Last night they were still on. So it's like they're very inconsistent about what they're doing and why. And it kind of makes me wonder, what's the whole picture here? And I think it's just the company is not doing well as a whole. And so they're trying to find other ways that they can actually save, including the areas which are doing well, like Disneyland Park.
Yeah, no, well said. And then, you know, it was funny. We were there last weekend for George's birthday and stuff. And we were trying to get into not lamplight, but the little outdoor area where you can get a few drinks, the little bar area, right? And It was like a whole arm and a leg process on the app, trying to get even and Webba, our good friend Mr. Webba, mentioned the walk up thing, but the walk up thing has a reservation. Like you need to go on the app and actually reserve a time, right?
Right.
So I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm like, well, that's not really walk up then, right? I mean, and so that it was like, well, that's weird. And then we finally get in, and it's half empty. I'm like, well, what was this whole process that we were trying to get in, and it was like such a big deal on the app, and such a hard thing to even to like not to time. And we actually get down there, and there's like 2 people on the patio. I'm like, do you guys want more money or not? You know what I'm saying? It's just weird to me. So I don't know.
They did the same thing with Oga's Cantina recently, right? They said, oh, no more reservations for that. It's just a walk up. And everyone's like, you've been waiting for this for how many years? And everyone's excited that now it's just a walk up because they should be able to get in easier because the reservation system was just terrible. I remember just a couple weeks ago, I was trying to make a reservation for it. And the only thing that was available was 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, really? And the other night, there were, walk-ins available, which is great. So I don't know if people just aren't taking advantage of, certain things like Oga's Cantina. Definitely all the reservations are always taken up for other restaurants. But yeah, it's just bizarre how they keep doing these things.
It's wild to me. Now, you sent me some great information, Bob. You said here that that they're going to add winter hours starting next week for Disneyland. They're closing at 11 p.m. every night in September and in October, including Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right?
Right.
I mean, that's incredible. And it's like you were saying, like, I mean, I get it, like off season, but I mean, isn't September and October kind of getting busier now because of Halloween time? So that whole thing is kind of strange, A lot of weird stuff happening.
But think about it too. They're also opening up the annual passes for the Imagine and for the Enchant. And they never open them up this time of the year. So I'm thinking they're trying to get people to buy passes. I think a lot of people have let them go. We let my daughters go last year. We wanted her to focus on school and everything. So we didn't renew it in December. I had a lot of friends that didn't renew it. To be honest with you, if I didn't have my channel, I probably wouldn't renew it because it's so expensive. And then on top of that, you have to make a reservation. And that's the most frustrating thing for me. It's like, oh, you want to go to the park? Well, you got to make a reservation. Well, I can't make a reservation. Well, I guess you can't go. But then I'm not able to go every single day. And oh, well, that's just the way it is, It's the most frustrating thing. And yet I go to the park all the time and it's pack, even with, these reservations. And so when I see them, selling the passes, cutting the hours, and they're going to winter hours already when Oogie Boogie just started, and Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays are going to be nothing but Oogie Boogie, for the next several months or a couple months. It's like, wait a minute, you guys are making all this money, but I think they're just trying to be consistent, saying, okay, well, we can close the park at 11 p.m. for Disneyland too because it's winter hours. We're not going to have a lot of people here. Well, you're going to have a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to be upset. And also, they've done this for a while, but now fireworks and Phantasmic are just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is usually what they do during winter hours. But it's kind of like, well, we're still in August. We're still in summer. So how do you do that where, now you're going to say, well, guess what? We're going to go ahead and we're not going to do Phantasmic or fireworks, during the week, during the summertime. We're going to just wait until Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, and guess what? We're going to, close at 11. The other thing that's disappointing too, it makes it very difficult for people to see certain rides and attractions while they're there, right? So you're going to take the parade probably down to just one time per night instead of 2, right? If you're closing at 11. You're also, right now, Walt's Magical Life, that closes at 8 p.m. I understand why it closes at 8 because obviously the parades and everything, the crowds and whatnot. But literally, if you want to see this, well, you got to get there, beforehand. A lot of the shows and attractions, like, it's a 70th anniversary right now, and they're playing those shows and attractions. But now they've decided, even for Christmas, they're not going to do Season of Light. They're going to just keep the 70th anniversary when they're getting rid of all the 70th anniversary stuff during Halloween. So that doesn't make any sense. So everything they do just keeps boggling my mind. I'm like, why are you doing this? You guys are making things more difficult for people to like in Disneyland, and more people are not going to want to come at all. And it's going to get to the point where people are going to say, you know what, it's just not worth my time and effort, and it's not worth my money. I'm going to go elsewhere. And I got to tell you right now with Six Flags and Knott's Berry Farm, I mean, obviously they're together, Six Flags Entertainment. They've got a great deal going on where you can, if you buy your annual pass right now, you get the rest of this year, all next year, and it's a VIP. You get all the other parks included in the United States for no extra money. So it's like, wow, I can go over here and spend less money on annual pass and get all the theme parks for, you know, the Cedar Fairs and Six Flags Entertainment, where I can get one pass to Disneyland and it costs me $1,700 if I buy the top of line one, and I'm still blocked out 2 weeks out of the year, and I have to make reservations.
Right. And the reservations get you kind of two ways, or they potentially can get you two ways, because getting the reservations is one hurdle, but the other hurdle is once you get the reservation, like you have to cancel that the night before, 24 hours in advance or whatever, or you get a strike. Well, the problem with that is sometimes you wake up and you can't predict what's going to happen. You might wake up and you wake up with a sore throat. You might maybe feel sick that day, or so you can't cancel it. So the reservation kind of can get you both ways, coming and going, right? So that's why the reservation system is such a pain in the butt. The other thing too I wanted to ask you, Bob, is like, because we are seeing a lot of interesting stuff happening with experiences, right? And there's good stuff too, but there are a lot of weird operational stuff that's going on that has us scratching our heads. This is why I've been saying on the channel for a long time, I would feel very uncomfortable, and I hope I'm wrong. I would feel very uncomfortable with Josh D'Amaro running the whole company, because I don't think he's done a fantastic job with parks or experiences. And now I put him in charge of everything, including the studio. And the studio part is the part that's really fragile. I mean, the box office, all that streaming stuff, you have all this AI stuff looming. That's going to be a huge headache in the future for them. And you're going to have D'Amaro, who hasn't worked a day in Hollywood in his whole life. I mean, it makes me nervous. He can't even do the parks really 100%. You know what I'm saying? What do you think about that? I'm kind of curious your perspective on D'Amaro and that whole equation.
So I'm really nervous about this whole situation, because to be honest with you, I can't think of the other person's name that's in the running.
Dana Walden.
Thank you, Dana Walden. She is, the worst between her and Josh D'Amaro. Yes, she has that background that you need for the entertainment, but he has the parks, and so it's a catch-22 either way you look at it. However, for Disneyland, I would much rather see Josh. I get it. I too understand your point, because I feel like there are things that he could have done or can still do that he's not doing to help the company improve, or the theme parks. But I also look at it as the sense that he's working underneath Bob Iger, who is, and the board, who are dictating what they want as well. And so maybe he has his hands tied and he can't do some of the things he liked to. Maybe he'll be able to change that once he becomes CEO. I mean, that is a possibility as well. The problem I have with Dana Walden is that, besides the fact that she seems a little woke on a lot of things, I don't feel like she has the company's best interest at hand compared to Josh D'Amaro. Yes, Josh D'Amaro just did the whole thing with, Saudi Arabia and the new park they're going to build over there. I think that's what's kind of put him in the running now for this, CEO position. And that's great that he got that, going. But what else is he doing to help the parks improve? The other thing is, and I know we're going to talk about Destination D in a moment here, but we don't have a lot of new things coming out. We heard a lot last year, D23, great, but you don't hear a lot about what's really coming out, and what you're getting is piecemeal stuff. And so it makes you think that, well, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to do anything really for the parks? I mean, we do hear about, they want to bring in Villains Land, and obviously they're getting rid of, Rivers of America, but that's the other thing. They're doing things that are detrimental to the parks. I think that they're going to find out it's a big mistake that they're getting rid of the Rivers of America. And I think it's going to come back to bite them eventually. Maybe not right now, but it's just like the Splash Mountain thing. They decided, we want to get rid of Splash Mountain. Everyone said, don't get rid of Splash Mountain. Well, 21,000 people signed a petition saying, let's get rid of it. We're not going to listen to the 3 million people that say, hey, let's keep it. And so that's the problem that Disney's having right now, is they're not really listening to the public or the guests on what they want. And when the companies don't do that, that's when they start to have problems. And we just had that issue with Cracker Barrel. Thankfully, it sounds like they listened, so they're reversing what they're doing. But that's a problem with Disney. They don't take the time to reverse. And I think there's a lot of things that Walt himself would never do. Would never ever do that they're doing now. And it's like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I mean, people say, well, Walt will be rolling over in his grave, even with his animatronics that's built. And that's a possibility. But the thing is that it's disappointing knowing that they're not carrying the legacy like they should. And when I say that, the other problem I have is the fact that we have Imagineers that, I'm not going to say they don't care, but we have Imagineers who are doing things that don't make a whole lot of sense, and they're not carrying over the legacy. And the problem is that a lot of these Imagineers are leaving, like my good friend Chris Merritt. He left a long time ago. He worked for a private company. Now he's going to Universal as a creative director.
Wow.
And the fact that he's over there at Universal's taking all the great Imagineers. And so now you have no Imagineers left to, train and to onboard these new Imagineers and show them what the legacy was and why the legacy was so important to Disneyland. And that's why we're starting to get, some attractions that just aren't, doing so hot. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Tiana's great. Well, it's still the same track. It still gets you, nice and wet on that ride, but the animatronics most of the time don't even work. And the fact that I've ridden that ride, I don't know how many times since it's opened. I want to say it's only worked 4 times. The whole entire time I've been on the ride, only 4 times where all the animatronics worked. Why?
Oh, wow.
It shouldn't be like that.
No, I agree. There's the breakdowns are unacceptable. And the other thing too is I think that whether people love the ride, the Tianas or don't like it, I think everyone can kind of agree too, where it's like when you replace a beloved attraction, whether it be Splash or whether it be the Rivers of America, right? Disney kind of puts themselves in a very uncomfortable position where the bar now is very high. Like it's already high with Disney. I mean, it's already super high, but now it's really, really high because now you have to whatever is replacing that thing has to be even better, right? So not to say it's impossible, but it's just a lot harder. You know what I'm saying? So this Cars Land, I've said on my channel many times, it's like, okay, looks cool. I mean, I like the national park thing. I think it's a smart idea, not going a full clone of DCAs. But you have to deliver though. And that's the thing. I mean, you have to hit this out of the park because if it falls anywhere below what was there before, there's going to be a lot of outrage. I mean, even more than there is now, it's going to be crazy.
Well, I think it comes down to storytelling. And that's the part that I'm trying to, I guess, get across is the fact that to be honest with you, I was okay with them turning into, I wasn't thoroughly okay, but them doing Tiana's, if they'd done a great job and they included Dr. Facilier and they had a good story and they told the story well, I think a lot of people would be like, man, this is amazing. I miss Splash Mountain, but this is a great ride. I can't believe they did this. But they didn't do that. And that's the problem with a lot of these new attractions. They don't tell the story. And if they do tell the story, it's just kind of ho-hum. And I think they need to get back to the roots and they need to do proper storytelling so they can get things back to normal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think also what they should do is whatever Disney is, when OLC makes something, it turns out fantastic. So whatever they're doing on that end, whether it be the money, staying out of the creative process, like the suits or whatever they're doing, do that, Disney. Because, Fantasy Springs and all that stuff, Tokyo seems to get it, you know what I'm saying? And I think that if you can kind of bring that same creativity stateside, I think a lot of fans would be very, very happy, but I mean, that's a big if, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I think that Disney, obviously, the suits, C-suite, they definitely meddle more out here because they can. They can't really get involved with Oriental Land Company. They got it's its own thing. So it's a different dynamic. I'm very curious too. You mentioned the Abu Dhabi park. That's a whole nother OLC situation, basically. So I'm curious to see what the quality with that is like too, because it's a blank check essentially over there, So
well, it is. And that company that is actually doing the construction, just like OLC. And I have a feeling they're going to listen to the Imagineers. They're going to take what they can learn and they're going to do their own thing. And they're probably going to do an amazing job. I foresee a lot of really cool things coming out of that park. And it's going to be really neat to see what they do. I don't think we're going to see our traditional castle that you normally see, and even though we saw the concept art, which I don't think that concept art really is going to proceed or, show us the future, what it's going to be like there. I think that was just something they threw together to say, hey, we made this deal, for Abu Dhabi, and this is what it's going to be like. It was just kind of a filler thing for now. And there's so many years in between now before the park opens, before they actually, show us what it's going to be. But I think there's going to be a lot of neat things coming out of that park. But that's the thing. We don't have, Disney used to have that vision and they would get things done fast. OLC gets things done fast, really fast. but it seems like, oh, we're opening up a brand new land. It's going to be 12 acres, large, and it's going to have 3 attractions. I'm talking about Cars Land, and it's opening up in 5 years. 5 years? What the heck? Are you building a new theme park? No, just 12 acres. All right, fine. I mean, it just seems weird that it takes so long. And also, not only that, but have you noticed that when they do build these new lands, there's only like 1 attraction or 2 that they have? I mean, Galaxy's Edge, it opened up a Smugglers Run. I know Rise was having problems, but it would have only been 2 rides that they opened up, and it was the largest expansion they ever had. It's like, why?
Well, that was a big issue with Galaxy's Edge, because when you build a land, because the land was supposed to have those giant banthas going through it, and it was also supposed to have that cool restaurant, right? Now Chapek saw dollar signs and was like, hey, we could put that restaurant in the Star Cruiser instead, with a way bigger entrance fee, so to speak, thousands of dollars to stay there for 3 nights of the whole thing, right? So that was definitely a money-making decision for sure. But the problem is when you build a 15-acre Star Wars land that had another attraction with the banthas and a full-fledged restaurant, including what you have now, but you leave those things out, well, that's why it seems empty, because the land was designed with those things as a part of it. And then when you cut those out, now it seems like a lot of wide open spaces. And it just doesn't feel right. Now, I will say, we'll talk about now since we're talking Galaxy's Edge, I do like this new Mandalorian Smugglers Run approach. I guess the engineers, because the engineer to me was always the most pointless. I mean, it was like you're facing the wall and you're like, what am I doing here, right? I guess the engineer is going to be able to decide the destination. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're trying to do more things with each of the positions. I mean, you got your pilots, you got your engineers, and then you have your who are those shooters? What do they call them? Gunners. Thank you. So I personally, when I'm streaming, I prefer being an engineer because it is the easiest to do. Although you do have to make sure you're pressing the right buttons at the right time to get 100%. And I'm glad to see they're trying to engage each of these positions a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. But they also I think they're looking to refresh it a little bit. The problem is when we were promised the Smugglers Run, we were like, oh, we're going to have 3 different storylines and you're going to have 3 different possible missions and it's all going to be random. And then we got 1 and it's been that way since 2019. So I think it's going to be a nice change of pace to, have some new things, because most people want to be a pilot or a gunner. No one really wants to be the engineer most of the time. And I wholeheartedly volunteer each and every single time because I'm, streaming and I want to be in the back and whatnot. But I like being an engineer and I don't think it's horrible. But given the fact they're going to give you another choice, or you got to, rile up your, crew and say, okay, where do we want to go? And then you choose it. That's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And, this whole thing with like Hondo and stuff, I appreciate, look, the Dave Filoni animation stuff is real big with the kiddos, right? The kiddos love that stuff. And the Hondo character and all that is part of that for like the younger kids, I think, really more than anybody. I appreciate that, but I also want to mix it up. I'm glad they're bringing in Mando and Grogu in here. I'd like to see some original trilogy stuff eventually. You can do Andor even or something. I mean, I want to see a mixed bag. I want them just to decimate this timeline, this timeline they have set for the land. Just decimate it and just put Star Wars in there. All generations of Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? And put music in the land. We just went this past weekend to the John Williams tribute at the Hollywood Bowl and had a blast.
Nice.
But oh, it was amazing, Bob. Absolutely amazing. But I'm listening to the Star Wars music. I'm getting chills, right? I'm like, how do they not have this music in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? When you're going through that tunnel entering the land, you got to hear that Star Wars fanfare. I mean, you got to hear some kind of music. I mean, the fact that you have a Star Wars land based on an IP where the music is basically a character in and of itself, and you walk in that land and you can hear a pin drop, it's so quiet, is a sin in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you not have the music? I get it, they went for the realism, but sometimes you got to add a little fun too, though. It can't be too realistic. That's why it's a theme park, I don't know.
I think it would be great, and this is the problem they've had with Galaxy's Edge from the beginning. They've never made it a lifelike area, right? You have an area that you walk into and you hear the sounds of the different creatures and animals and things happening in the bushes. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I agree with you. They need more aliens. They need more, droids. They need more life. They talked about, oh, we're gonna have drones flying around. They never had drones flying around. They brought out those cute little BD droids, right? The BDX droids. But the problem with that is they don't bring them out for the Season of the Force. Why aren't they there all the time? Bring them out more. Make this feel like a living, breathing land. Just because I see Chewbacca and Rey, the Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren, and now every once in a while Grogu and Mando or Boba Fett, it still doesn't make it a living land because it might just be one character out at a time,
Right.
instead of a bunch of characters. And when there are a bunch of characters, they usually interact with each other, and that's just not happening very often because they don't have them all out there. The other thing is too is that I agree with you. If they need to have music around the shops and the marketplace, and then as you're walking to Rise of the Resistance or you're walking out of the land, then don't have any music there because then you can hear the sights and sounds of the creatures and things in the bushes. But they need to make it more lifelike, and they never did. I agree they should have stuck with the original trilogy. I think it would have been better. Obviously, they thought, well, because Force Awakens did so well, they were going to set it after the new trilogy, but that bombed obviously and didn't do very well. And the whole franchise as a whole is not doing very well at all for them. And no one's going to buy the droids at the Droid Depot hardly at all. It just seems like no one. I mean, there's some people go buy lightsabers, but it's not as popular as it used to be. They raise the prices. It's more expensive to buy these lightsabers and put them together. So they're really hurting themselves because they aren't making this land more lifelike like they could. But I think it's coming down to money. Well, you know what? We have to watch our budget, so we're just not going to make it a lifelike land. But at least they brought in the new projections. They brought in the music,
cool.
Fireworks. They finally did that.
Yeah,
kudos to them. But they just need to do more.
They need more. Yeah, that projection show is really cool. That's very that whole show is very Star Wars. I really feel like, okay, like when Disney gets it right, sometimes they just nail it so hard. And that's one of those things where like, okay, Disney got that right. It's gorgeous. And it's not just the sequels. It's, actually, I don't even think the sequels are even in there, right? I think it's just the prequels and OT, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and Galaxy's Edge? It's
the projection. I mean, the projection show.
The projections.
Yeah.
So they do cover, when they do the Skywalker saga, they do start from the beginning all the way to the end. So they go from episode 1 to episode 9.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
The fireworks, it's mostly just the, I think it's just the original trilogy, I think is what they have there. You see the AT-ATs and things like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's important. Mixing those in and getting, look, people our age, we grew up on the OT, and even honestly, even the prequels. I mean, we were pretty young still with those, and I want to see more of that, man. I don't know. And it's a big enough land where you can incorporate all these generations of this great franchise. There's no reason to pigeonhole yourself into one thing,
Well, that's the problem. They pigeonholed themselves, and I know there's a lot of people who love Kylo Ren. In The Force Awakens, he was a really cool character, and then as his character went on, I thought that he was more of a wuss than a really hardcore Sith Lord like his grandfather Darth Vader. But I would have loved to have seen Rise of the Resistance or Rise of the Rebels instead, where Darth Vader's there instead of Kylo Ren. And Rise is an amazing ride. I love that, but they could easily switch it over, with the old stormtroopers and Darth Vader instead of, Kylo. It takes some, doing obviously, but they could if they want to. The nice thing about that land though, and a lot of people don't realize it, is I've had the opportunity to be backstage behind Galaxy's Edge, and there is a lot of room for them to expand and grow. So I'm really hoping that they do eventually put a new attraction back there to add to that land. They definitely have the room to do it, but I have a feeling it's going to be a while. They're going to milk what they can for Rise of the Resistance and Smugglers Run, especially adding new movies whenever they can, just like Star Tours. And eventually, hopefully, they'll add another coaster or something back there.
It's kind of cool. I like that idea that you suggested, Bob, where for Rise of the Resistance, you can do like a Rise of the Rebels, right? Because look, we even see it with Haunted Mansion Holiday. They swap out the lamp guy for Jack. Mm-hmm. The animatronics is swapped out. I mean, so you can technically swap out Kylo with Vader, and make a few, the stormtroopers. I mean, really just a helmet, really. I mean,
Mhm.
you can make some changes and have like, even if it's just a seasonal thing, like maybe you have like original trilogy like season from like January to like April, and Rise is basically an OT version, right? Oh, that would be hugely popular. I mean, that would be insane, right? And it wouldn't take too much to kind of switch that over, I don't think. I mean, they kind of do the same level of investment with Haunted Mansion Holiday, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know how much it would cost to switch that over, but as long as you're not suggesting the Star Wars Holiday Special in Rise of
Yeah.
Resistance, I think we're good.
I think we're good. Yeah, exactly. That's a whole nother conversation. But now, speaking of attractions, this Mickey Mini Runaway Railway. I mean, they have a new phone policy where if you want to elaborate on that, because I think it's interesting, especially for people like us who do content and stuff like that. It kind of does change things, right?
Right. So about I think a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we actually were told by cast members, some of my fellow streamer friends out there, that hey, you can't take your phones on the ride, and they were like, even with the gimbal, nope, can't take it at all. No personal belongings, no phones. You had to stow everything away. And within a couple of days, they actually had signs up saying stow all your personal belongings. And we were like, well, this is really weird because, on some rides over at Walt Disney World, as well as, DCA, like if you want to ride in a credit coaster, as long as you have a strap onto your stationary gimbal, you're fine. You want to ride the swings, Goofy Sky School, same thing. You just need to have a strap on your stationary gimbal. But you can't take a regular gimbal. They won't let you take that. So Theme Park Casual decided to do a test last week, and he went to the park on Wednesday and said, look, I've got a strap attached to my stationary gimbal. Can I take this in? They said, yes, as long as you have a strap, it's fine. The cast members were claiming that people were dropping their phones and or personal items on the track, and of course it was shutting the ride down. And that was the excuse, apparently. So basically, Danny tested that, and it worked. So I tested it on Monday. I went back to the actual Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, and I said, I've got a gimbal, but I've got a strap. Can I use that? It's not a stationary one. It's an actual gimbal. And they said, yes, no problem. And as I went through the line, no one gave me a hard time until we got close to getting on the ride. Then a couple people said, hey, you're going to have to stow that. And I said, oh, I've got a strap. And they said, oh, no good, or no problem. You're good. And then when I got up to the front, I tried to show them a strap to the cast member who is operating the ride. Apparently they didn't see it. So I got on the ride and they said, you're going to have to stow all your personal items, your phones and everything. And I showed the strap to her and she was like, oh, you're good. And then the people behind me were like, well, how come he gets to keep his out and we don't? And they were not too happy about that. And I will say this is going to be a problem. But once the ride started, because I was allowed to keep mine because I had a strap, all of a sudden I turn around and I see that they've got their phones out, they're holding them. So people are going to do what they want to do, unfortunately, still. But the interesting thing is they're not requiring anyone to do this on Rise of the Resistance. It's the same type of ride. It's, Wi-Fi track. People drop their hats and stuff all the time on that ride. I'm surprised that they are not taking the same approach. Not that I'm asking them to. I just thought it was weird and odd that they're only doing it for Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. But then again, you also have one of the tamest roller coasters in the whole entire park in Toontown as well, and that's Gadget's Go Coaster, and you can't even take a phone, gimbal, GoPro, nothing on that. And again, it's because someone has dropped things on the track and it could create a hazard. I get that, but you got people going on in Credit Coaster, not in Space Mountain, and all these other coasters, and it's not an issue. They're allowed to take their phones, gimbals, GoPros, and it's fine. But I think this is going to become more of a common thing where they're going to start requiring people to have straps for their gimbals or phones, and I think that's great. It's a good safety precaution to have people do that, and I have no problems as a streamer to do it. I mean, I'll bring my wrist strap and attach it every single time I go, and if they tell me I got to put it on, well, it's already on my gimbal, so absolutely no problem. But as long as it's not where they're like, oh, you can't ride the ride at all, that's what worried everyone. It's like, well, how are we going to ride this? A lot of our viewers love seeing Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now you tell me I can't ride anymore? Well, yes, you can. So thankfully, cool. Now that we've solved that problem, it's not such a big issue. Although I'm sure a lot of other people who don't have straps for their phones are going to have issues with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I agree with you. It's a safety thing, and you don't want to put people in. I mean, one of those phones falls on someone's head or whatever, or flies in their face. I mean, that can do a lot of damage to somebody. You want to make sure safety comes first. So as streamers, we can adjust, and wearing the little strap thing is not a big deal. And at the end of the day, if it prevents someone from getting hurt and we can still make our content, hey, everyone wins, I think, But you're right, though. There is going to be a problem, though, with people going, well, I'm still going to pull my phone out. That's going to be a big problem.
Yeah. Now, I do want to bring something up, and I forgot to mention this before, but I think I told you that they're not letting people ride in the front or the back cones of the monorail anymore. And we were kind of boggled as to why this was happening. A lot of us are still not sure why. So last night, me, Theme Park Casual in Corning, California, for our Park Streamers Hangout, we decided to take the monorail into the park when we were done eating at Downtown Disney at Salt and Straw. So we walked up to some cast members, and we were the only ones waiting for the monorail. And I said, I just want to ask you, are we allowed to ride in the cone still for the front or back? Or is it completely it's gone away and it's not coming back? And both cast members said, look, you can do it right now, but only in the front cone of the red monorail. And I'm like, why just the red monorail? That's the only one we're allowing right now. And I'm like, is there a reason why? And they couldn't say or didn't want to say what the real reason was. So I didn't get that, but at least
that's oddly specific.
Right. It's like, okay, well, and they said, well, hopefully the blue one will start going next. And I'm okay. And I'm like, is there an issue, a safety issue? I go, oh, is the AC not working? And they go, oh no, if the AC doesn't work, period, we shut the whole monorail down. We put that in the back. I'm like, oh, I guess I don't understand why you're not letting people ride in the front and back. And They wanted to tell me, but they couldn't tell me. And regardless, even though they didn't, I'm glad to hear that, hey, at least there is one monorail. The problem is when we walked up, the red monorail had just taken off. So we were like, oh, I guess we're not riding that in the front. So it's good to hear that they're trying to work on it. Again, I've heard some other rumors that I'm not going to say here because I don't know if they're true or not. But regardless, if they're going to try to get this back, this is great. And I'm hoping they will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a fun experience, being able to ride in the front like that. It's really, really cool. So that's awesome. Now, okay, before we move on to we got some Knott's stuff I want to talk to you about and all that. But before we dive into Knott's, one last thing on the Disney front, Destination D coming up, a few days.
Yes.
There's no park panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I still think we're going to get some announcements, but it's not going to be heavy. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. But what about you, Bob? What do you think about this in terms of the parks? Do you think we're going to get anything with this, or do you think it's going to be light?
I think the problem is that they made so many announcements at D23 last year that there's not a whole lot to announce. And what they do have to announce is just not big enough for an actual panel. So I think what they're just basically doing is they are going to let out some information, and they're going to, let some things, be known to the public, and maybe make a couple of surprise announcements. Maybe we'll see. Yeah. But to me, it seems like they're just focusing on the creators and the storytellers being there, the Imagineers, the cast members, historians. I mean, they're covering the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the Three Caballeros. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff, but the parks is the things that I want to hear about the most. I want to hear about, what are you doing? I mean, I don't care that you told me that, hey, you're building, Lion King, a log ride over in Paris. I want to hear more about it. You said you're building Coco. So what's next on the Coco list? Yes, and maybe they are going to talk about some of that stuff. But it seems really weird to me that they are not having a parks panel. And it really, is disappointing. Now, then again, if you think about it, last time they did a parks panel, it was at the Honda Center, or is it the Honda Center?
Honda Center.
Is that what they call it? Yeah, the Honda Center. Can't keep up with that place with all the name changes. But yeah, and it was huge, and you had to buy a separate ticket for that. And maybe they're trying to stay away from, doing something like that again, because, Destination 23, D23 has always been a much smaller scale than D23 itself. And it's been more of a destination type thing, obviously, why it's called Destination. So I think they're going to be focusing on more the Disney universe as a whole instead of just the parks.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're going to there's two things that stood out for me with the presentation schedule list or whatever. That villains panel, we're probably going to get something Villains Land related in that panel. Probably. Now, how substantial that's going to be, who knows? It might be a very minor thing about the land. Maybe it's just the name of the land or something, who knows? But I think we're gonna get something in there for Villains Land. The other thing that stood out for me, which I thought was kind of weird, they have, I think it's called Around the World. And they have Around the World with Japan, Around the World with France, Around the World with China. But the fourth one is Around the World with India. Now, the other ones make sense because Disney has a presence in all those areas, China, Paris, and obviously Tokyo. We don't have any Disney presence in India, which makes me kind of think like, are they going to announce something for India? Now, it's definitely not going to be a park. I'd be shocked if it is. They already have the Abu Dhabi thing that's brand new. The ink ain't even dry on that deal yet. So I don't think it's going to be a park. What it could be, if it's anything, it would be maybe a new Disney cruise port they can have off of India. Maybe it'll be, this is less likely, but possible. Maybe they're going to replace Morocco at Epcot with India. We'll see. Or maybe it's some Adventures by Disney thing or something like that. But I feel like there's something going on with that India, that 5-minute presentation that they're going to drop during that 5 minutes. Because there's no India connection to Disney at all. I mean.
No. And I will tell you, it's kind of interesting being a streamer. I think the second highest place to people that watch my channel are actually India, believe it or not. When I go into my stats, it's kind of crazy. They love Disney and anything that's Disney related. So I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be, hey, they're building a new theme park in India. I think it's going to be a destination, for like a cruise line, or maybe it's a trip to India, something like that, or maybe it's some sort of collaboration with India. I don't know about the whole Morocco thing. That's interesting. I never thought about that. But you're right. It doesn't seem, if they're going to do this Disney around the globe, what are they going to do for 5 minutes to talk about India? I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. So I think we both agree it's going to be kind of light on announcements for the parks, and I hope we get some stuff out here for California. I would like to know a little bit more about this Coco thing. They're going to start construction pretty soon. I think they're already kind of prepping the area from what I'm hearing.
It looks like it.
It looks like it, yeah. So I hope we get a little something on that, because I'm very curious how they're going to fit all that back there. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be too hard for them to fit it back there. Last time I looked, and I'm going to look real quick as we were talking, but for Google Maps, I think because, they haven't shown us exactly where it's going, but most everyone has pretty much guessed where it's going to be. And I think there's going to be plenty enough room, because if you think about it, that's a whole roadway that used to go all the way around, back in the day, and it still kind of does, and usually it just goes for cast members. But I think there's going to be plenty of room where they build it. Plus, I don't know how big this ride's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as grand as Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think it's definitely going to be a decent size. So I'm looking at the map right now and looking at this thing. There's plenty of room to build, because it's a whole huge area. If they get rid of that road, now I don't know what they're going to do if they get rid of that road, or how they're going to, redo it. However, don't forget that Disneyland also bought Disneyland Drive, and they're planning on shutting down that whole entire road of Disneyland Drive that basically goes from, Catella all the way down to Ball Road. So it kind of makes me wonder what they're going to do. And if they do shut down that road, there's plenty of more room, because now you're going over towards the other side of the Simba parking lot.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting too. We did a video recently on George's channel with Drew, the Disney dude, the man, the myth, the legend, Drew, the Disney dude. It's always a good time with him, and he always brings the interesting perspectives with this stuff. And his idea or theory was, with Coco, is maybe Disney will incorporate some sort of technology where you can kind of like, like in Tokyo with the Frozen attraction, how that one door scene, it turns around to reveal another. If you can do that with set pieces, where you can almost go in a circle, but the set pieces can rotate and change, and it looks like you're actually going through different areas. And I thought that was an interesting concept, what he kind of presented there, because it's like, okay, that's interesting, because you can really maximize that area even more so if you were able to do that, So that's kind of interesting. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I don't know, but I mean, you could technically do that through various technology and very like illusions or what have you, right? So I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out. But I really am excited for Coco, because I feel it's perfect for a park about California. How do you not have a Latin area in there already? I don't know. but it's about time that we're getting some Latin area, like permanent attraction in this park about California. I think it just makes a whole lot of sense, you know?
I think so too. I think it's going to be great. And I have no idea, you know, I know they're building up over by, you know, the plaza area, but I'm kind of hoping that they build it down towards where the buildings are, where that hold the floats and everything. Because that would be great if they were able to use that whole, like almost like an L-shaped area. That would really expand, because I'm hoping that it's just not, oh, well, here's, you know, the land of Coco, and it's like super small. And it's like basically got one attraction, and you got a little street that you walk through of the town, and that's it. I really want it to be a little more, you know, large and lifelike. Like the thing is, obviously, it's not going to be as large as Radiation Springs Racers, or I should say, what you call it? I can't think of the name. What's the name of the Cars Land? Ornament Valley.
Ornament Valley.
Yeah, it's not going to be as big as Ornament Valley, but if they could build something that makes it seem like it's a fairly big area, I want it to be like that. I want it to have some sort of life, not just a ride.
No, I would agree. I want to see outdoor vendors cooking Mexican food. I want to, you know, I want that real that vibe, you know, the mariachis and everything, you know.
Well, you know, right now they have, you know, the story of Coco happening during this holiday season, and it would be great to see that in the Coco land instead of just in front of, you know, Goofy Sky School.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Actually, real quick before I move to Knott, since we're talking about Coco, I want to ask you about Pandora, right? Because this is weird. This one's really weird to me. How are they gonna, like right there in that area with monsters and all that? They're gonna get rid of all that, and then the bus load unload area, I'm assuming that's gonna be the show building basically back there. But like, how are they gonna incorporate? How are you gonna go down Hollywood and then turn left and you're in Pandora? I mean, do you think they can make this where it looks like it fits in the park, or do you think it's going to be kind of a jarring transition?
No, I have a feeling, this is my theory. I don't know what everyone else says. And I have a couple sources at Disneyland, and they have not given me any clues as to what's, you know, happening. However, I'm thinking that Hollywoodland's going away, and we will
whole
not see
thing?
it anymore. The whole thing. And when I say the whole thing, I'm talking about the whole entire thing. Monsters is going away. They've already announced Monsters going away for this,
Right.
obviously, right? But you've got the Hyperion Theater. They haven't done anything with Hyperion Theater in years.
Right.
You've got the whole Hollywoodland area where they have the animation studios. You got Turtle Talk with Crush, all that stuff. They could easily, you know, do without those. Or if they decide to keep those, they could keep those as, you know, part of, you know, the animation. But it might seem kind of weird and out of place because it's not part of Hollywoodland anymore. I really honestly think that the show building is going to start where Monsters Inc. is, and it will go back to where you're talking about the parking lot or the tram goes, because that's all being eliminated once they build a new parking structure. That's going to be over by Garden Walk. So yeah, they have the opportunity to really build out this land, and there's a lot of backstage areas that people don't even go to anymore. You know, where they had the commissary, you know, back for the Hollywood Lounge. That building is never used anymore, and there's so much room behind it. Same with over in, you know, Marvel. You know, there's so much room that backstage of Marvel to build all these, you know, these two new attractions. I think they're going to be able to do the same thing, and I think Pandora is going to be a lot bigger than we think. The other thing is too, they've said that, you know, they're going to be using the same ride system for Pirates of the Caribbean and Shanghai for Avatar, which also lends itself to be more where they can actually turn the boats around and do things that they normally wouldn't be able to do, like on Pirates of the Caribbean, and possibly make it not as big as Pirates of the Caribbean. But, you know, I think it's going to be something like that, because I got to be honest with you, it's not going to be as big as Pandora in Animal Kingdom, but they've got to make it big enough so that you see scale and size to make you feel like you're within the land.
Yeah,
and if they're only building one attraction, they need to make it a good one.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that. 100%. And you might be onto something too with the entire Hollywood land going away, because Disney has gotten a lot of backlash with removal announcements. They've, you know, and so maybe they're sort of easing us into this, right? Because they know if they announce Hyperion's going away, it's going to be a big thing online. So what they're going to do is they're going to start with Monsters, announce that, and then maybe as the construction starts and they go a little further out, then they're like, and by the way, this is also going to go. Maybe we just haven't heard that shoe just hasn't dropped yet. It's possible, I guess, right?
Well, they've already gotten rid of the trolley, right? And they're planning on getting rid of all the wires up above. Well, why wouldn't they just get rid of all the track to go with it, right? There's no reason to have it anymore, especially if they can't build another roundhouse in the back. The other thing is, you mentioned, and this comes full circle, and I'm glad you mentioned it, but you mentioned for the Magic Morning Hours that, well, they're kind of sabotaging it, right? Where they're making it so that it's not a successful or something that people can or want to do. Well, Hyperion Theater has been closed for 2 years now. They haven't done anything in it. They can go, oh, well, you know what? It's not being used, and we're not doing anything in there, so it's time to get rid of it.
Right.
You haven't been in there in 2 years. What's the big deal? And then a lot of people go, yeah, we haven't been there, and it's not being used anymore, so who cares? We're going to get rid of it. I really think that's what's happening as well. I think that they're just building. They're waiting for the right time to tell everyone, hey, guess what? Now that they've already, because you think about it, they announced the red trolley going away. Now they've announced Monsters Inc. going away. What's the next thing? Oh, well, Hyperion's going away, and guess what? We're going to be building this whole new area in this area, and they'll put out maps and whatnot. And then next thing you know, they'll say, guess what? Animation Academy is going away now, and it's going to be great because we're going to put this in Pandora. So I really feel like that's what's going to end up happening. And
that's a great point, Bob. I think you might be onto something with that, because you're seeing pieces of it getting announced, and it's a slow rollout, and eventually it's going to be the whole thing. Because it really, that would be really the only way this is going to make sense over there, at least even a little bit. Because if you keep any of Hollywood, it's going to look really disjointed, up against Pandora. So they're going to have to kind of do that. No, that's a great theory. Let's switch over to Knott's. A lot of interesting stuff that you sent me. It says here, Knott's Scary Farm has canceled all Wednesday nights, and Magic Mountain has canceled all Thursday Fright Fest. So this is interesting. Now, this is the same company now. Cedar Fair and Magic Mountain, they did merge, I think it was like a year and a half ago now or something like that. Now, I know a lot of Knott's fans, and I love Knott's. I think it's a really, really great park. But people are nervous, right? I mean, this new management team is kind of, you never know. What's your take on this? Why are they doing it? Is this a money saving thing, a demand issue thing? Why are they eliminating these nights?
Yeah, I think it's a money saving issue, which boggles me because if you think about it, Knott's Scary Farm is one of the biggest money makers for Knott's Berry Farm, and it has been for 52 years now. The fact that they're now taking a day away, it's like, well, why? Now, granted, and most people don't know this, but they have 350 artists they're doing makeup for the monsters. You got all these monsters that you're using, so you have all this overhead and costs. Yet people are paying a lot of money. Now, I will tell you, I did notice that last year, it seemed like there were certain nights that weren't as busy as others, and maybe that's why they're doing it. They didn't make as much last year. It wasn't as popular last year. So maybe they're cutting things. But to me, it's a cost-saving issue again, where it's like, well, we could save money by not doing it one extra night, so let's just go ahead and do that. But here's the problem. They already sold annual passes for the whole entire season to people, saying, you're going to get to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for a full 2 months. Oh, guess what? Sorry, we're taking Wednesdays away, so now it's only Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Anyone that bought tickets for Wednesday is now able to transfer it to a different day, which is nice that they're able to do that.
Yeah.
But let me get this right. I just spent $159 on an annual pass for the whole entire season, and you just took out all Wednesdays. So now I'm getting like 6 less days or however it may be. I didn't look at the calendar to see, but it's disheartening. It's really, really sad. Why didn't they do this or make the decision before they sold the annual passes?
That's a bait and switch for sure.
Right. And then they did the same thing with Six Flags. Now, Six Flags, I've only been to Fright Fest, once or twice. And it's very, very popular as well, but they do things a little bit differently. At Fright Fest, typically you can be in the park. If you have a ticket for that day, you can go where all the Halloween stuff is. You just can't go into the mazes unless you pay for the mazes. And then you go through all the mazes. So that's a little bit different. But the fact is, they're also taking another day away. So it just seems to me like they're trying to save money. I just don't like the fact that they're doing this, because they've always had Fright Fest Thursday through Sunday, and they've always had Not Scary Farm Wednesday through Sunday. So
Yes.
it's really upsetting to see this happening. I haven't bought my season pass yet for the Not Scary Farm. Had I'd probably be a little more upset now than because I haven't paid for it and go, what the heck? This is not good. But
No.
unfortunately, we are not the decision makers, and maybe one day we'll get the full truth. But for right now, I think it's a money issue.
Yeah, it probably is, because when these companies, when there's acquisitions and mergers and what have you, there's a lot of redundancies and a lot of cost cutting, a lot of layoffs. Unfortunately, that's part of the whole equation. And that whole deal is still pretty fresh. So they're looking to trim, and it's sad because I think Knott's is a great park. I honestly have never been to Magic Mountain. I've been to the water park, but I've never been to Magic Mountain because I'm not a coaster guy, So I just, It's like going to the beach if you hate sand. It's like, what's the point, right? But I've never been to Magic, but I love Knott's. I love the train and the vibes, and I just don't want them to mess with it,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, at least they're not doing anything. I mean, yes, they're canceling one day, out of each week for the Not Scary Farm. They're not changing anything else to, Knott's Merry Farm, the Boysenberry Festival, anything like that. It just, it is disheartening to see. And I'm like you, my channel's named after Knott's Berry Farm as well as Mickey and Minnie, because Berry Place was the name of the first market for, the marketplace they had there at Knott's Berry Farm. And it was created in 1928. So Berry Place 28, but Mickey and Minnie was also created in 1928. So that's why I named my channel Berry Place 28. It's got a lot of history there.
Yeah.
I don't want to see things like, history taken away. Unfortunately, this is something they've been doing for many, many years. And just like Disney, I think they're just trying to save money, and that's it.
Yeah. I think as fans, we all got to be very, very, very vocal, and just keep the heat on, And then I think that does help. We saw it with Cracker Barrel and stuff. Sometimes it does work, sometimes, So if they start to go in a weird direction, as content creators, especially because we have audiences that, we can get the word out, we got to speak up, keep Knott's this charming regional park that it is. I really want to keep that quality,
Yeah. I really wish they would just come out and explain what they're doing and why, because then it doesn't leave any interpretation out to what they're doing, and there's no rumors or anything like that. But at the same time, I know it's hard probably for a company to say, well, we're trying to save money because, of operational issues and whatnot. But I mean, Disney is not fade away from that in the past, especially when it comes to, hey, it's winter hours time because, we're closing early. Well, you still have a full park.
Exactly. And then kind of on topic, but off topic. I'm not a big Halloween guy. Don't really like horror movies even. And I went to HHN for the first time in like the longest time. I mean, I think I was in high school or like just getting out of high school when I went the last time. So it was basically my first time recently. And back in October, and went with a bunch of friends. And I gotta say, Bob, it really impressed me. I came out of HHN at Universal like a changed man. I loved that event. I mean, it was incredible. I had the best time. And for someone who's not even into the genre and not into like that stuff, I mean, for it to win me over like it did says a lot. So I want to give a big shout out to Universal for that, because they threw one hell of a show. And actually, even the Fan Fest thing, I loved HHN so much. I went to Fan Fest in April, and that thing was
that was amazing,
right?
I went for one night, and I think the night I went, it was the very last night actually they were doing it. I couldn't go earlier in the season. Obviously, it was only for a couple weeks, and all I kept hearing was how great it was. And I kept seeing clips, and I'm like, I kind of didn't want to watch clips because I wanted to experience it for myself. And I got to tell you, after going to so many After Dark events at Disneyland and spending so much money on those things, I spent way less money and I had a better time at FanFest. And I think it's going to put the pressure on Disney, because they really Cordy has always been a big fan of, going to the After Dark events. But after this year, we've had so many bad experiences. She says, I'm done. Maybe Oogie Boogie is the only thing I'm going to do, but I'm done. And she did do Oogie Boogie one night. But I went to, Sweethearts event. I went to Star Wars night. I went to 90s night. And while, yes, I enjoyed 90s night and part of Star Wars, there's nothing new, nothing different. When I went to Sweethearts night, it got rained out. So now the characters there was no photo opportunities. It was like, wait, I spent how much money? And all I'm doing is I can ride rides and I can see some entertainment, and that's it. And I spent how much money? And you got FanFest where they get you involved with Back to the Future or
Oh
in
my
the
God.
Dungeons and Dragons, or with the characters from One Piece. I mean, there were so many things that get you really interested in that. And that's what it was. That was what's so cool, is that it was different IPs and genres all in the same park, and you got to have all these different experiences. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm here for just Star Trek night. No, it was Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons and everything, Harry Potter, and they made it fun and exciting. So I'm hoping this year's going to be even better, and I hope that Disney learns from it so that maybe they make some changes to do some of the same things.
No, I 100% agree. I had a blast at FanFest. I went, I think,
Yeah,
twice, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, being able to walk the, I'm even getting goosebumps right now, even talking about it, walking the Hill Valley stuff. I
right.
mean, geez, and then the projection show and all that. I was like, this is incredible, and I think that it's interesting, right? Because we just saw that they opened this Horrors Unleashed over there in Vegas, right? And a
Yes.
lot of people are asking, how is this thing how are they gonna do Halloween all year? Well, a good solution to that is because look, FanFest took the HHN model with the mazes, but they just made them nerdy. Is all they did.
Right.
They made a nerdy Star Trek maze and they made a nerdy D&D maze, right? You can turn Horrors Unleashed in the off season that's not Halloween into almost like a permanent fan fest thing. And you can do the nerdy mazes and all that stuff. You can reinvent it in the off season, and I think that would be
Mhm.
really popular too. So there's a lot of potential, and Universal has been really smart with kind of taking stuff that they know and kind of remixing it, right? And I think that they might go in a creative direction like that with this Horrors Unleashed thing. Are you planning on going to that, or have you been already to the Vegas thing? Or
I haven't. I want to go, but I couldn't go opening week. My daughter's back in school, and we have this vacation that's starting this weekend. So hopefully, within the next month or so, I'll be able to go. I got to see, obviously, Theme Park Wizard was there, and some of our other friends have been there. So it's been
awesome.
amazing watching some of the footage. I think you're right, though, and my theory was, I was thinking the same thing. How are they going to do it year round when it's like this is usually a seasonal thing? But think about it; they could very easily do something like FanFest, or they can easily switch out the mazes, shut one area down, get it, done in a few weeks, and now it's a whole new maze, compared to what it was before. They have the opportunity to do stuff like that, and I think it's going to be really neat seeing what they do, because I think they're going to try to keep that momentum going and say, hey, look, it's been 6 months or a year, whatever, and we are going to change things and flip them upside down, and now we're going to open up here. And I think that they have the potential to really do a lot of really cool, fun stuff. And if they continue to do it with events like FanFest in that type of situation or way, yeah, you're right. They are going to hit a home run, and it's going to be going for a long time. Now, then again, it's also at Area 51 or Area 15, I think it is. You got
Yeah,
Meow Wolf that's got the Omega Mart. Omega Mart has been the same way for the last 5-6 years or longer, whatever, how long it's been open, and people still flock to that thing. So
right.
who knows? Maybe they will just keep it for a while with the certain mazes they have. But I think they're going to start switching things out, and they're going to make it fun.
I agree. And this is a perfect time, I think, for Universal to get into the Vegas market, because right now we're hearing a lot. You've probably seen a lot of the news stuff that the
Oh yeah,
gambling is really drying up and
yeah.
all that stuff. So Universal's coming in with something different. And so this could be kind of like that counter programming. When the gambling is drying up, oh, here's a cool themed experience, like something different. You don't have to go clubbing or gambling in Vegas now. There are other options, right? So I think they're getting in there right when there's a crack where they can kind of slide in. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Vegas. They it used to be this place that was very cheap to go to. You got cheap food, you got cheap meal, or I mean, gambling. You go all over the place. But now it's like, well, if you want to park here, it costs you money. If you want to stay here, it costs you this much money every single day with resort fees and everything. And the shows are amazing, but they're so expensive now. And it's
It's
like,
crazy.
geez. So hopefully, I hope that Universal hits a home run out there. I hope it's very successful for them, and they're able to take a bite of the market there with their niche.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've actually this year I've been to Universal a lot more than Disney. I might have to change my name to Universal Guy 64 or something. We'll see.
Are you going to go to Las Vegas though as well? Check it
I
out.
want to, yeah, I want to. I'm gonna try to get down there for in the next month or so to do it because I want to see this thing, you know. Actually, I am gonna go down. I'm actually gonna be in that area, I think in October. I forgot what weekend it was, so I'm gonna try to shoot for that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think I'll see if there's availability because I think it's been selling out though, right? It's been pretty.
Yeah, it has been.
Broke. Yeah, so we'll see. But Bob, it's always a pleasure. I love having you on the show. I want to have you on again very soon. Actually, I talked to George today, and he's actually seen the Jaws 50th anniversary thing at Universal, and he said that when he comes back from vacation because they're going to go on a Mexico trip for a week. I think starting this weekend. We'll talk about getting you back on again because George wants to do a show with you as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's seen my favorite movie of all time, Jaws. So I'm a little jealous when you told me he was going to go see Jaws, but I'm planning on going to see it too. Unfortunately, it's releasing, today, and I'm gonna have to wait till I get back from vacation because I'm leaving this weekend too. But yeah, I cannot wait to see the 50th anniversary version of Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great franchise. And Bob, if you remind everybody where they can find you on social media so they can support and follow you.
Absolutely. So you can find me at BarryPlays28 on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. And again, please follow me with Theme Park Casual, Cordy, California at the Park Streamers. It's just at Park Streamers on YouTube, as well as our website, our blog site at www.parkstreamers.com.
There it is. There it is. I'll be linking all of this down below. Park Streamers, all of Bob's stuff, and I'll throw Casual and Cordy in there as well. They're part of that trio for the Park Streamers. I'll put it all down in the description. Make sure you show love to all of it down below. And Bob, I want to thank you and everybody watching. Thank you for watching this episode of OGVT5. And until next time, see you later.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.